After 10 long years, she revealed the incredible moment that changed their lives forever. Sarah stood on her front porch, the chill of autumn weaving through the air as she watched the vibrant leaves flutter down like confetti. The annual harvest festival was just around the corner, and a wave of hope washed over her. She had been waiting for this moment, the one that held the promise of laughter and connection for her and her kids, Mia and Luke. They needed it, she needed it. Her heart thudded with excitement, mixed with the memories of her past, a past that had stolen too much already. 10 years had passed since she lost her husband, a local veteran whose laughter still echoed in the town of Maplewood. The pain had carved grooves in her heart, leaving scars that reminded her of the nights spent juggling multiple jobs, weary bones aching under the weight of bills piling up like autumn leaves. Yet, each time she looked at Mia and Luke, her frail sense of inadequacy was eclipsed by purpose. She was determined to give them the life they deserved, one where laughter could fill their home again. Then, just when she thought she might catch a break, Jake, her estranged brother, stepped back into town. A figure from her past with a familiar smile, yet his arrival felt like uninvited thunderclouds looming over a clear sky. Their separation had been a wound one festering with unresolved grievances, judgments, and misunderstandings. Sarah felt a mix of anger and longing flare up inside her, swirling like the leaves outside. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival approached, tension built between Sarah and Jake. They walked side by side in a quiet truce, a silent agreement to focus on the celebration rather than their past. The town square was aglow, vibrant colors and cheerful laughter spilling out into the streets. But soon everything changed. An ominous figure emerged, a mayoral candidate who sought to exploit Maplewood's struggles for his own gain, igniting sparks of anger within the townsfolk. That's when Sarah felt the fire ignite in her heart. She stepped forward, her pulse racing, and confronted him amidst the crowd, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. You don't know the real Maplewood. We care for each other, and we don't need your empty promises. The crowd hushed, and for a heartbeat, it felt like time stood still. Her neighbors turned, eyes wide as if searching for someone to rally behind, and then they began to cheer. With that, tears brimmed in her eyes. She felt free, her heart swelling with the weight of newfound strength. Jake stood behind her, his brow furrowed as he processed the courage radiating off his sister. He realized, in that moment, that Sarah was not just the sister he had left behind, she was a warrior, fighting for her family and their town. Just as connections began to form again, a familiar darkness loomed. Jake was struggling beneath the surface, old habits whispering temptations he thought he'd left behind. Would they triumph against the odds this time, together as siblings? Or would the shadows of their history pull them apart again? As the festival buzzed with renewed life and laughter, Sarah's heart raced. The next chapter was just beginning, and the path ahead held uncertainty. The warmth of the festival enveloped the town, but Sarah could feel the cold sweat of anxiety pooling at the base of her spine. She had won a moment, yes, but the fight was far from over. As her eyes scanned the crowd, soaking in the laughter and familiar faces, she sensed Jake's unease lingering just beneath the surface. Mama, look! They have caramel apples. Mia's excited voice broke through Sarah's thoughts, pulling her focus back to her children, who were bouncing with energy. Luke tugged the sleeve of her sweater, urging her toward the booth adorned with brightly colored signs. Let us go. Sarah replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her heart. She needed this day to be perfect for them, a sweet distraction from whatever darkness threatened to overshadow their lives again. As they meandered through the booths, the delectable smell of pumpkin pies and roasted corn filled the air. Children's laughter echoed like music, and for a precious moment, Sarah felt her worries lift. She watched Mia giggle as Luke attempted to win a stuffed bear at a game stall, his focused expression making her heart swell with love. It was then she saw him. Jake stood leaning against a nearby tree, his expression distant. He was looking at the people around him, but it felt as if he was miles away. She hated to admit it, but the sight twisted something inside. She wanted him to join them, to be part of the laughter and the warmth that encircled them like an embrace. Yet, the fear lingered, whispering doubts that he may falter again. "Mama?" Mia's voice broke the spell. "Can we get a picture with the giant pumpkin?" "Of course." Sarah's voice was bright, yet she couldn't shake the heaviness lodged in her throat. They made their way to the enormous pumpkin, the pride of Maplewood. As they posed, Sarah pretended the world was just what it seemed, perfect and carefree. After snapping a few pictures, she felt a presence beside her. Turning, she found Jake standing there. "Mind if I join?" he asked, a hint of light in his eyes. Her heart skipped, but apprehension tinged her excitement. "Sure," she replied cautiously. The three of them stood together in front of the pumpkin, and for that brief moment, it felt like a family again. But as the shutter clicked, she caught a glimpse of doubt on Jake's face, the shadow lurking in the corners of his smile. They spent the afternoon weaving through the festivities, laughter mingling with the buzzing energy of the crowd. Yet, with every moment of joy Sarah felt, a tight knot resided in her stomach. As night fell, glowing lanterns illuminated their path, but the cozy atmosphere couldn't chase away the gnawing fear that constricted around her heart. "Mama, look!" Luke pointed toward the stage where the local band began to play, and the crowd moved in for the fun. Families swayed together, a sea of warmth that beckoned Sarah. The joy was infectious, but something clenched tighter in her chest at the sound of Jake's laughter wafting through the air. "Let us dance!" Jake exclaimed, pulling Mia and Luke into a light-hearted jig. For an instant, Sarah's heart raced with hope, a taste of what they could regain. But like a balloon losing air, her happiness deflated when she saw Jake's gaze dart toward the exit, and she felt the world tilt on its axis. Was he really present with them, or was he merely biding his time until he slipped away into that dark past once more? As the night went on and the music swelled, she wrestled with the weight of uncertainty, torn between a longing for connection and fear of loss. Could they really reclaim what was broken, or were they doomed to repeat the same cycle? Tomorrow would come bearing challenges, but deep down Sarah knew it was the moments of connection, however fleeting, that mattered most. With a surge of determination, she took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever awaited them. Noticing the flickering lights of a nearby bonfire, Sarah's heart stirred in a familiar way. "Let us go by the bonfire," she suggested, searching Jake's face for a sign of agreement, and as they walked toward the light, a question swirled in her mind. Would this be the night that could hold the key to healing, or would the shadows rise again? That thought lingered in the air like smoke from the fire, settling heavy on her heart. The crackling of the bonfire filled the air, drawing them in with a warm glow that cut through the darkness of the night. Shadows danced on their faces, and for a moment, Sarah felt hope flutter in her heart. Surrounded by laughter and chatter, the flickering lights created an atmosphere that almost felt like a second chance. "Simon, let us grab some marshmallows," Jake suggested, a hint of playfulness returning to his tone. He shepherded Mia and Luke toward the small table set up with roasting sticks and bags of fluffy white marshmallows. Sarah watched them with a tight smile, debating whether to join or to take a step back to let them enjoy this moment together. But the two little ones turned, eyes shining. "Mama! Come roast with us!" Luke's excited plea broke through her hesitation. She couldn't resist. "Okay." With a renewed sense of commitment, she walked over. The warmth of the fire wrapped around her, calming some of the tension that had settled deep in her chest. As she helped them spear marshmallows on sticks, Sarah stole glances at Jake. He was watching the kids dance around the fire, a small, genuine smile creeping onto his face. It was a sight she had been longing for. As the marshmallows turned golden brown, Sarah felt the remnants of her worries begin to melt away. Laughter bubbled up as Mia declared hers the best roast she had ever seen, while Luke tried to outdo her with his own. But as she shared in their joy, something nagged at her. "Jake," she called softly, pulling him back into the moment. "Do you want to roast one?" He hesitated, glancing at her, the warmth in his gaze flickering like the flames. "Sure, let me give it a shot." The way he leaned closer to the fire, the light dancing in his eyes, made her realize just how much she missed this simple moments shared, free from shadows. As they toasted their marshmallows, she felt a flicker of hope, wondering if they could rebuild what had been lost over the years. As they savored the gooey sweetness, Sarah leaned into the spirited mood. "Remember the last bonfire we had?" she asked, a smile growing on her face. "Of course," Jake replied, his eyes sparkling with the memory. "You caught me trying to roast a marshmallow a second too long and ended up pulling me aside to give me a marshmallow rookie lesson." "More like a marshmallow disaster lesson," Sarah laughed, and that laughter so familiar yet so healing warmed her heart even more. The moment felt precious until the night shifted. A cold breeze blew across the yard, stealing the warmth they'd built together. Jake's smile faded a fraction, and Sarah caught the shadow returning to his eyes. It clawed at her insides, that familiar fear creeping back. "Mama! Look!" Mia's voice shrieked with excitement. She pointed toward a group gathering nearby, where a storyteller had begun recounting a spooky tale that made the kids gasp. The atmosphere buzzed with intrigue, pulling their attention away from their fire. As they turned, Sarah felt Jake tense. The darkness in him seemed to swirl, battling for dominance. An instinct shot through her, this was the moment to press. "Jake," she whispered, her voice barely above the murmurs around them, "are you okay?" For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. The laughter faded, replaced by the crackle of flames. Jake finally caught her gaze. "I want to be okay," his voice was low, but the honesty cut through. Caught in that shared look, the weight of unspoken truths lay heavy. Sarah felt the world around them fade out, leaving only the two of them standing there, floating in a sea of uncertainty and longing. The storyteller launched into a chilling segment, causing all the kids to jump. Jake instinctively stepped closer to Sarah, a subtle reminder of his need for connection, but also fraught with warning. Jake, her heart raced. Would he meet her halfway, or would he slip away again? And in that moment, under the expansive night sky, something vital shifted. Was this the tipping point they needed? Or would the shadows rise yet again, separating them just when they were beginning to find their way back? The story continued to unfold in a haze of flickering flames and hushed whispers. As the storyteller wove a haunting tale, Jake's tension hung thick in the air. Sarah felt him shift next to her, his presence grounding yet trembling under the weight of what needed to be said. The warmth of the fire felt less inviting now, the heat more a reminder of the distance that still lay between them. "Mama!" Mia tugged at her arm, eyes wide with excitement. "Can we tell a spooky story too?" Luke's face mirrored his sister's enthusiasm. Their innocent excitement tugged at Sarah's heart, but the heaviness of Jake's silence loomed large. "Sure, but let's wait until after this one," she said, forcing a cheerful tone, even as her heart twisted. She wanted to protect this moment, yet she was painfully aware that their smiles could not mask the cracks beneath. The storyteller's words faded into a low hum as Sarah took a deep breath. "Jake," she whispered again, urging him to open up. The gentle rhythm of the night encouraged vulnerability. "You can talk to me. Please." His eyes turned to her. Flames reflected in his gaze, revealing layers of fear and hesitation. "I don't know how to be the person you need. I've messed up so many times, every time feels like the end, but maybe it's not," she replied softly, her heart aching for both of them. "Maybe it's a chance to start over." Mia and Luke squirmed, caught between the heat of the fire and the intensity of their conversation. They were so young, yet their pure spirits clung to the hope that people could fix things. It was so easy to want what the kids had, that untainted belief in second chances. Suddenly, the storyteller concluded his tale with a dramatic flourish, prompting gasps and scattered applause. Sarah glanced over at Mia and Luke, who clapped excitedly, their laughter lifting the tension. It was a sweet distraction, but one that couldn't erase the reality standing between her and Jake. "I know it's not easy for you," she continued, her voice low and steady. "But I'm here. You don't have to face it alone. We can work through it together." He was silent for a moment, his expression wavering. "What if I fail again?" The fear in his voice stung, sending shivers down her spine. Would he ever believe they could overcome this? "Maybe this time," she said, searching for the right words, "it's not about never failing. It's about holding each other up when we do." His brow furrowed as he absorbed her words. Sarah could see the battle within him, but amidst the uncertainty, there was a flicker of softening in his demeanor. Moments where honesty echoed louder than the shadows. Luke chimed in, tilting his head, "What does holding each other up mean? Like a superhero?" Jake chuckled lightly, and for a fleeting second, the heaviness skimmed the surface. "Something like that," he said, "but we're all heroes in our own way, right?" The moment felt fragile yet full of promise. For every step taken away from despair, they edged closer to a path drenched in warmth and possibility. The children's innocent joy wrapped around them, providing a source of strength, but just when Sarah felt that glimmer of hope settling in her heart, Jake took a step back, a shadow clamoring for his attention again. "When I think about the past," he paused, searching for words, "it scares me. I don't know if I can handle it." Her heart sank as she realized that the shadows were not gone, they were merely waiting. "Then maybe," Sarah replied, her heart racing, "we need to bring the past into the light. Together." In that moment, a crack of possibility emerged between them, ready to reveal truths that might change everything. As the fire flickered low, and the laughter of the children faded into the night, Sarah found herself grappling with a thought: was this the moment that could ignite their next chapter, or would the past loom larger than their resolve to move forward? "Sarah," Jake's voice broke through her reverie, "what if facing those truths could change everything?" And with that, the night felt charged with something undeniable. Would they step toward the light, or retreat into darkness once more? The darkness settled around them like a heavy quilt, wrapping Sarah and Jake in an enveloping hush that felt as though time had momentarily stopped. The flickering embers of the fire danced as if echoing the uncertainty in the air. Sarah could see the internal struggle grappling with Jake, the burden of unspoken words weighing heavily on his shoulders. Mia stood up, twirling in a sparkly princess costume, her laughter cutting through the tension between them. "Tell the story now, Mommy," she chirped, igniting a smile on Luke's face. For a moment, they were simply parents, watching their children beam with pure joy against the backdrop of a beautiful night. "Okay, how about a thrilling adventure this time?" Sarah suggested, glancing at Jake. He nodded faintly, but she could tell he was still lost in his thoughts, the heaviness of their earlier conversation anchoring him in place. "Once upon a time," she began, weaving an engaging tale that brought the kids into a world of dragons and treasure hunts, her voice rising and falling with excitement, but even as the children's delight sparkled in her eyes, a knot twisted in her stomach. She couldn't ignore the urgency of what lay in front of them. When the story wrapped, the children squealed with delight, demanding to know more, but Sarah turned her attention back to Jake. He looked at her, the walls around him still woven tight with past mistakes and fears. The laughter of their kids faded into a distant hum as the gravity of the moment returned, drawing her focus sharply to him. "What do you want to talk about?" she asked gently, her heart racing. Would this be the moment when he finally opened up about his fears? Would he peel back the layers that had kept them apart for so long? Jake inhaled deeply, his chest rising with a mix of determination and anxiety. I've been haunted by everything that's happened. It doesn't just go away, you know." His voice was thick, something raw and real beneath his struggle. "I know," she replied softly, squeezing his hand, trying to bridge whatever gap remained. "But facing it might mean not carrying it alone anymore." The children's laughter faded, replaced by the silence that demanded attention. The intensity of the moment expanded, filling the space as his eyes searched hers. "I can't go back. What if being honest just ruins what we have left? Jake, keeping everything locked away hasn't helped us either. I believe we can find a way through this together. She leaned in closer, needing him to feel the truth in her words. Let us confront it. For us, for Mia and Luke. We owe it to ourselves to try. He closed his eyes briefly, as if weighing her words on a delicate scale. The flicker of the fire cast shadows on his face, revealing the turmoil behind his stoic mask. Okay. But I don't know how to begin. Before Sarah could respond, Luke broke in with big blue eyes. Can we tell a spooky story now, please? The innocence in his request punctured the tension like a pin to a balloon. Sarah shared a knowing glance with Jake. There, amid the children's anticipation, she saw a glimpse of hope bloom. You know what? Sarah smiled, touching Jake's arm to draw him back. Let us pause for tonight and save the heavy stuff for later. It's important, but so is enjoying these moments. Jake exhaled, an almost grateful breath, and nodded slowly. Yeah, you're right, he said. The weight lifted just a little. As Mia and Luke began to weave their own fantastic tales, full of silly monsters and hero antics, Jake leaned closer to Sarah. You know, maybe I don't need to be perfect. Maybe being honest is a step towards something better. Her heart swelled, and the hope began to turn into something tangible. But in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling that every story also had its darker undercurrents. Maybe next time, she said quietly, we can brave those shadows together. And just like that, she felt ready to delve into the hard truths ahead, but as Jake looked into the fire, something shifted again in his expression. Would he still retreat when facing the darkness of the past? The tension and hope hung like a promise in the air. Would tomorrow be the day they finally faced it all, or would those shadows cling to him like a comfort? As the children erupted into more laughter, Sarah sensed another turning point was looming just on the horizon. The night deepened, wrapping them in a thick blanket of quiet. Sarah's heart thudded softly as she observed the children's joy, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Mia and Luke were lost in their own imaginative world, each word from their mouths a stepping stone toward a brighter future. But for Sarah and Jake, the real journey had just begun. As the fire crackled, the light flickered over Jake's face. She could see the shadows swirling, his mind seemingly painting pictures of memories he wished to forget. It pained her to watch him wrestle with the past. Just when she thought they had a chance to shine a light on their problems, he seemed to drift deeper into silence. Mia, tell us about your princess's adventures. Sarah called out, her voice lively, trying to lure Jake back into the moment. Mia's eyes sparkled with excitement as she launched into a story full of daring escapades and magical friends. Luke chimed in with woofs and roars, his little limbs flailing as he acted out the parts. But Jake barely responded to the commotion. He stared into the fire, the flames morphing into memories that haunted him. Jake, Sarah whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. I'm here, he said, finally dragging his gaze from the fire to meet hers. She searched his eyes, looking for a flicker of the man she fell in love with, the one unafraid to share, unafraid to dream. What's on your mind? She urged, her voice steady despite the quickening beat of her heart. That he sighed, the sound a mixture of exhaustion and yearning. I keep thinking I don't want our kids to grow up burdened like we did. Like I did. His admission struck a chord deep within her. You're not that man anymore. We're different now, Jake. We've fought for our family, for each other. We can face this. Jake's eyes softened, but doubt clouded them. What if they see us scared? What if they grow up feeling like they have to hide their feelings? Then we show them it's okay to feel scared. That's part of being human. Her words hung between them, a bridge to what they needed to confront. With every breath, she wished for him to let down those walls. Suddenly, Mia piped up, her innocent voice breaking through. Mommy! Can we have a sleepover in the living room? With popcorn and blankets? Sarah chuckled, grateful for her daughter's spirit. That sounds like a fantastic idea, sweetheart. As they gathered blankets and pillows, a sense of warmth returned to their little world. Laughter erupted again as Luke jumped into the pile, demanding the coziest corner. But beneath it all, Sarah felt Jake's tension return. She caught him watching her, his gaze heavy with unspoken fears, and wished she knew how to ease that weight. The popcorn popped, filling the air with a buttery aroma that mingled with the wood smoke outside. Everyone settled down. Yet, just as they prepared for the movie, Sarah sensed Jake's gaze drifting to the window, and his expression turned serious again. "Sarah," he started, but the doorbell interrupted. Startled, they all turned towards the noise. Who could that be? She wondered aloud, confused. Jake shifted, his uncertainty palpable. Maybe it's just a neighbor. But a tightness formed in her chest. They weren't expecting visitors, and something in Jake's posture told her he wasn't comfortable with the unexpected interruption. "Should I get it?" she asked, glancing at the door. "Maybe we should just." Jake hesitated, the words caught in his throat. But curiosity was buzzing in Mia and Luke's eyes. Sarah felt a swell of determination. No matter what lay beyond that door, they had to face it all. "I'll be right back," she reassured Jake, moving toward the door, her heart racing. As her hand touched the cool doorknob, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever awaited them on the other side. Was this disruption a sign? Was it the universe pushing them to confront their truths? With a firm twist, she turned the knob. What she found was more than she'd prepared for, a revelation that might change everything. The door creaked open, revealing a silhouette against the dim porch light. Confusion washed over Sarah as she blinked into the night. The figure stepped forward, and her heart sank. It was Grace, a familiar face from a time she had tried to bury. The woman's expression was a mix of hope and trepidation, her eyes pleading for understanding. "Grace?" Sarah could hardly breathe, memories flooding back moments long buried under layers of pain and regret. She hadn't expected to see her, not here, not now. "Sarah. I'm so sorry to just show up like this," Grace stammered, her voice shaking. I needed to talk to you." "And Jake?" Jake's shadow moved in the living room, his presence a tight coil of uncertainty. Sarah glanced back, her heart pounding. "Grace, it's late. Can't this wait?" "No, it can't." Grace edged closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "It's important. Please." Sarah looked back at Jake, whose brows knitted together in a stormy expression. She opened her mouth to say something, but words escaped her. "Let us hear her out," he finally said, his voice low but steady. There was a flicker of tension between them, like a taut string waiting to snap. With a quick nod, Sarah stepped aside. Grace walked in, her presence stirring the air with unspoken history. The kids were tucked away in blankets, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beyond their living room. "What is it?" Jake asked, crossing his arms tightly. Grace inhaled deeply, gathering her thoughts. "I've been trying to reach you both. There is something you don't know, something about that night." "About what happened?" A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The shadows of the past were creeping back, threatening to pull them under again. She exchanged worried glances with Jake. "What do you mean?" Jake asked, his voice firm yet strained. "You never wanted to talk about it before." "I know. I thought it was better to leave it alone. But I've changed, and it's time to come clean." Her eyes darted between them, holding memories they had both tried to forget. There was a pause, thick and suffocating. "We need to know, Grace," Sarah urged, stepping closer. "Just tell us. I kept something from you. It wasn't just an accident. There were things I couldn't voice when it happened, and I thought it was safer to protect you both by staying quiet." Jake's expression hardened. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I was there that night." Every word felt like a heavy stone dropped in a still pond, creating ripples of tension. "And I saw everything. Sarah felt her heart race, a mixture of fear and anger flashing through her. This is a joke, right? Jake's voice trembled. You can't be serious. I wish I were. Grace swallowed hard, tears welling up. I thought you should hear it from me first before it comes out another way. Mia peeked around the corner, sleepy eyes blinking at the intense atmosphere. Mommy? Is everything okay? Sarah's heart cracked a little. She forced a smile to reassure her daughter. Everything's fine, sweetie. Just a grown-up talk. But as she returned her focus to Grace, she felt her own walls trembling. This isn't the way to do it. You could have told us this years ago. Grace lowered her gaze, shame washing over her. I was scared, but this is bigger than fear. You need to know the truth. As the weight of Grace's revelation settled, Sarah felt the world tilt. Everything she thought she knew was crumbling away. Why now? Jake whispered, the rawness of emotion breaking through. Why couldn't you do this sooner? Because I was afraid of losing you. But I can't hold it back anymore. The room fell silent, a muted chaos enveloping them. Sarah's thoughts raced. This was at the moment everything had been building toward. The truth, concealed for so long, had finally clawed its way to the surface. But was she ready to confront it? As Jake turned his gaze back to Sarah, dread and determination warred in her heart. This wasn't just about the past, it was about their future, the walls they had built bravely shielding their fragile family. Let us sit down, we need to hear all of it, Sarah finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. But as they settled onto the couch, one question echoed in her mind: what would this revelation tear apart, and could their bond survive the truth? The air hung heavy with unspoken words as they all sank into the couch. Mia wandered back to her room, her sweet innocence a sharp contrast to the brewing storm. Sarah could feel the weight on her heart, a familiar pressure that had settled there for years. Grace fidgeted, her hands trembling in her lap. All right, Grace, Jake finally said, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. Start from the beginning. That night Grace began, her gaze drifting toward the window where the moon cast shadows on the floor. We were at the party. You two were having such a good time. She took a deep breath. I didn't intend to stay late, but the memories floated up in the silence, clawing at the edges of Sarah's mind, making it difficult to breathe. It had been a celebration, filled with laughter and dancing, but it spiraled out of control. She could still picture the music blending with the energy of the crowd, how everything felt so alive before it all turned dark. Grace shook her head, pulling Sarah back to the present. Things got out of hand. There was drinking, and I saw you both laughing. But then, everything changed. She paused, her lips trembling. I saw the accident happen. Tension rippled through the room as Jake leaned forward, eager for clarity. What do you mean? You said you were there. What exactly happened? Grace's voice cracked. There was a fight. A car sped through the party. I saw it all unfold. And the worst part? I was standing there, frozen. I never told you, Sarah, because I thought you'd hate me. I thought if I told you the truth, it would shatter everything. Sarah's heart dropped. The night filtered back like a reel of film, each frame a stab of grief and anger. The way she had felt that night, helpless and lost, came flooding back. You let us believe it was just an accident, she whispered, the bitter taste of betrayal settling in. How could you hide this? It wasn't just protecting you. I was protecting myself, Grace replied, her voice thick with emotion. I was terrified of the repercussions. I let fear control me. Jake clenched his fists. And what about us, Grace? You let us live with this guilt, this suffocating guilt, thinking we could have done something different. How dare you? The accusation hung like smoke in the air, thick and suffocating. Sarah felt the tension, the betrayals of silence, clawing at her soul. She had spent years wrestling with the shadows of that single night and now faced the depths of a new betrayal. Grace's eyes glistened as tears spilled over. "I know I'm asking you to forgive me, but I couldn't bear it any longer. You deserve the truth, even if it destroys us. Does it really matter now?" Jake spat, anger flashing in his eyes. "What good is your truth if it's only bringing back all this pain? Because, if we're going to survive this, we need to face it together. We can't build a future on lies, no matter how hard they are to confront," Grace replied, her voice imbued with a determination Sarah had never heard from her before. Sarah's heart raced. Could she swallow this truth? Could they all navigate the wreckage left behind? Fear knotted in her belly, twisting tighter still. The quest for understanding was almost unbearable. What wouldn't they do to rid themselves of the chains tethering them to the past? "Maybe we can move forward," she finally said, her voice steady yet faint. "But it's going to take time. A long time." Jake's expression softened ever so slightly. He was still grappling with the situation, but the edges of his anger were fraying. There was room for healing if they could tread carefully. As Grace wiped away her tears, a question loomed over them, one that lingered like the weight of the world. Could they truly move past this, or would the ghosts of that night always haunt their family? But as Sarah looked into Grace's eyes, she felt the battle of emotions raging within her. The disclosure had shattered something inside, but perhaps just perhaps there existed the possibility of rebuilding. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, tearing through their fragile moment. All three turned their heads in shock, hearts racing with dread. "What was that?" Sarah whispered, her breath caught in her throat, knowing the day was far from over. The sound of shattering glass sliced through the tension like a razor. Instinctively, Sarah jumped to her feet. "Mia!" Her voice trembled, a mix of urgency and fear. Grace and Jake were right behind her, their faces pale as they rushed toward the kitchen. The tiles glistened under their bare feet as they hurried through the hallway. Sarah's heart raced, cranking up the anxiety knotting her stomach. The kitchen door swung wide open, revealing a panorama of chaos. Mia stood in the center, wide-eyed, as shards sparkled on the floor like fallen stars. "Mia!" Jake shouted, disbelief painted on his face. "What happened?" I dropped it," she stammered, pointing at a broken plate by her feet, her small frame trembling. "I was trying to get some water, and it slipped." "Are you hurt?" Grace moved closer, crouching down while attempting to keep her voice soothing amidst the mayhem. Mia shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry," her tiny hands fisted. "I didn't mean to scare you." Sarah knelt, wrapping her arms around Mia, pulling her close. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're okay. Breathe," she whispered, stroking her hair, feeling the little girl's heartbeat thrum as they both calmed down. Something about holding her was grounding, a gentle reminder that love could still flourish amidst turmoil. As the chaos settled, Grace began to pick up the larger pieces of the plate, and Jake grabbed a broom from the corner. The mundane task brought a slight distraction from the earlier conversation. But the weight of truth lingered in the air, sparking a tension that was far from resolved. "Maybe we should talk about this later," Jake suggested, his voice quieter now, as he brushed the fragments into a dustpan. "It feels like everything is too much right now." "Agreed," Grace said, a hint of relief mingling with her concern for Mia. "We can take a break." But as Sarah looked into Mia's innocent eyes, something clicked inside her. "No, we need to talk about everything," she said firmly, her heart swaying between the fear of truth and the clarity it promised. "We can't protect her from what happened forever." The weight of those words sank deep. Mia, standing between them, represented everything they all had fought for, but it also reminded Sarah that silence had its consequences. They couldn't shield her from reality indefinitely. Jake glanced between Grace and Sarah, uncertainty swirling in his expression. "But at what cost? What do we say? That we messed up? Or that we let someone down? How can we do that to her?" "By being honest," Sarah replied, resolve washing over her. She deserves to know who we really are, what we've faced. It's not about blaming, it's about understanding. Mia, catching snippets of their conversation, frowned. Are you mad at me? She asked, her voice small. No, baby, it's not your fault, Grace reassured her, brushing away the last remnants of fear. We're just figuring some things out. Sarah shot Grace a glance, recognizing the unspoken agreement between them. They would face this, together. Fear might haunt them, and regret might linger, but so would love, the very foundation of their family. Mia, Sarah said softly, kneeling to meet her gaze. We're okay. We're going to be okay. But we need to promise to always talk about things, no matter how hard they are. Mia nodded slowly, her childlike trust shining through. Just then, as they began to feel a heaviness lifting, another crash echoed outside, reverberating through the house like an ominous warning. The peace they hoped to find was still elusive, and Sarah's heart raced again. What now? Jake breathed, gripping the edge of the counter as dread washed over them. Sarah's chest tightened. I don't know, but something tells me we're not alone in this. In that moment, they all understood, the truth was only the beginning. What lay ahead would test them in ways they never imagined. Would this storm finally reveal their strength, or would it tear them apart once more? The uncertainty became almost unbearable as they stood together, waiting for what came next. The air was thick with anticipation, each heartbeat drumming loudly in Sarah's ears. She could feel Jake's tension beside her, their earlier connection still painfully exposed, raw and vulnerable. The shattered plates and spilled secrets felt all too real, but they were only the prelude to whatever awaited them outside. Mia, stay close, she instructed softly, instinctively pulling her daughter into her side. The kitchen felt like a fortress of memory, but that sense of safety was quickly unraveling. Jake's eyes narrowed at the door, where shadows danced just beyond the threshold. With a deep breath, Sarah ventured one step closer to the door. What's out there? She murmured, resolved to face whatever came next. Grace moved too, her presence steady and grounding. We can handle this together, she whispered, a soft encouragement that felt like a thread linking them tightly. Suddenly, the door burst open, and cold air rushed in, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. Her heart leaped as she met the bewildered gaze of their neighbor, Mr. Harris, his wrinkled face a mixture of concern and urgency. I saw a figure lurking around your backyard. Thought you might want to know, he breathed, eyes darting nervously. Fear pricked at Sarah's senses. Gasping, she stepped back reflexively, clutching Mia tighter. We need to call the police, Jake said, his voice unwavering despite the fear racing through him. Let us make sure. Before he could finish, Sarah felt the tremor of responsibility overshadowing her. Her heart raced, not just for the outside threat but for the palpable tension left unresolved between them. This was it, they could not let fear or the shadows of their past define them anymore. Wait, she said, standing tall. We aren't going to let our fears control our lives any longer. Why let this moment define us when we have a chance to break free? The silence that followed rang out through the room. Jake's gaze locked onto hers, a mix of surprise and admiration in his eyes. Sarah could see him wrestle with his own turmoil, but as she met Grace's understanding smile, something shifted. The uncertainty outside felt cold and distant compared to the warmth wrapping around them in that moment. Jake nodded slowly, exuding newfound determination. Let us face whatever is out there together, he said, finding his courage in Sarah's conviction. Grace, equally emboldened, whispered, I'll stand with you, her voice steady and fierce. As a family, they stepped toward the door, ready to confront whatever lay before them. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, igniting a bright flame in her chest as she held her children close. No shadows would linger longer than they had to, not when they had each other. Outside, the moonlight bathed the backyard in silver. Shadows swayed as a gust of wind brushed through the trees. Stay sharp. Check the corners, Jake instructed, his voice low but resolute. They circled together, the three of them attuned to each small sound: a rustle of leaves, a scrape of branches. Gradually, the unknown shifted, a figure emerging from the bushes. It was only a stray cat, but the sight brought relief and laughter cascading through the family. "You scared us!" Mia exclaimed, giggling as the feline scampered out of reach. Relief blossomed into carefree laughter, the weight of uncertainty bubbling up, giving way to moments of pure joy. "See, sometimes what feels so threatening isn't all that scary," Grace observed, her heart lightening. The night air felt brighter now, and shadows lost their grip. The tension that had once suffocated them faded, revealing clarity and understanding. As they returned inside, Sarah could feel the warmth of hope glowing in the room. Tomorrow would come and it may bring challenges, but they had taken an extraordinary step together. "Let us make a new rule," Sarah proposed, eyes shining with purpose. "Every time something worries us, we'll talk about it. No hiding." The agreement hung in the air like sweet anticipation. They all nodded, shifting into a comfortable rhythm. Laughter spilled as they gathered blankets, preparing for the sleepover they had almost forgotten. Jake and Grace shared stories, playfully teasing each other as the fireplace crackled. In that embrace of warmth, Sarah could feel the hold of darkness siphoning away. No longer were they simply searching for answers burrowed in murky shadows, they were building a future on honesty, on trust, on love. Just before they settled down, Sarah glanced at Jake, his smile bright and alive, the spark she had craved for so long. "Thank you for facing everything with me," she murmured, feeling the weight of all they had been through melting away. "Together, right?" he whispered back, their eyes locking, an unspoken promise sealing their bond, a bond that had faced fire and returned radiant, stronger than ever. And as the movie played in the background, laughter erupted again, flickering through them like the gentle glow of the fire. Sarah felt hope and possibility coursing through her, transforming them anew. No matter the trials ahead, Sarah understood with open arms that they were finally back where they belonged, together, as a family. Now, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to catch more exclusive stories that inspire change and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this transformation. Your support means the world to us.